think we're on.
Now, are we on?
Yes.
How, how long has it been since I've done something TV wise? Yes. Well, welcome to everyone joining in with us. I am Kelsey Miner, and I would like to now just bring in the man of the hour, Don Champion.
Hello.
Hi,
So weird. And I don't know why I'm so nervous, but we
and
are.
I have no idea why you are so nervous. Off the top, I just want to go ahead and get some pleasantries out the way. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Been a busy day at my day job, but
It's
yes, literally just got home. But fun. It's good to be here and talk about this book and to be with you because I know it'll be fun. Don't be telling any of my secrets, though.
So I guess that's a great segue. We should probably get out of the way that you and I are best friends. We've been friends for a really long time. And I'm super excited about the release today of Signing Off, a reflective guide on transitioning from TV news by yours truly, Don Champion. How do you feel about the release of this book today?
Honestly, it's kind of surreal. It's kind of, this is just like a little idea I had last year. One of the great things about this new life of mine outside of news is that people contact me frequently asking for advice and help on making transitions of their own. And I've always been someone who, really loves helping people and empowering them as well. And so last year, as I was working through with some folks, I just started jotting down some of my notes and thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. And I also did like a little bit of like analytic research on like Google searches around this topic of career changes and leaving TV news. And I found that there kind of was like a market for it, at least, in terms of people searching for the topic and such and things like that. And so with the turn of the year, I was like, okay, I got kind of scared and was like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I should do this. And then I was kind of inspired by something that I watched on YouTube, and I was like, okay, let me just put it out there. I'm releasing this book to kind of just like force myself to do that. And so the past few weeks have just been involved, like kind of just getting everything ready. And, I've learned so much. And it's funny how much like the universe just puts people in your life like at the right time. Like there's a woman at my job who I partner with closely on projects and stuff like that. And we just happened to be talking one day, and we've become friends over the past few years. And I just happened to bring up the book, and she's like, I write books. And she used to work for a literary place. And like, so she just, filled all this knowledge into me over the past few weeks that really helped me to like kind of scale this and really put out a product that I'm really proud of. And, I was originally just really interested in just doing like a PDF, that I was just going to send down because I didn't think that it was going to be anything. And then people started asking about paperback and Kindle and all this. And so it's been cool and fun to like kind of go through that process. So I say that long-winded answer just to say that it's kind of surreal that we're here, but I'm really excited and really happy about it.
Hearing you say things like analytics, and I did a deep dive on Google, and all of these things lets me know that you are no longer the newsy that I once knew. You are full on tech bro at this point.
Yes, no. And, I mean, I think the journalist in me is still very much alive. And it's interesting. And that's something that I discussed in the book. Like, I still have my journalism hat on in my day-to-day job, even though I'm not like in a reporter role. But like what I do at my day job at Amazon is I own like a employee engagement strategy for my org of about 5,000 people. So these are 5,000 people globally. So one of the parts of my job is communicating with them on a monthly basis, weekly basis around things happening in our org. And also another part of my job is like kind of marketing the work that our teams are doing. And they're really doing some cool stuff. And so it's like, I often tell people like outside of my job that it's like, I'm kind of like reporting on my org in a way. So that journalism hat is still very much intact. But I think one of the things I really appreciate appreciate about Amazon is just that business acumen that I've developed over the almost 3 years I've been here, and just the knowledge and scaling and things like that. The words that, I never really understood when I got here. I was like, what? And so, yeah, so it's definitely kind of a tech bro, but, still have that journalism, hat on still too.
And being in that space allowed you time to create things like this, which is what we're going to take a deep dive in right now. Now, what I want to kind of clarify for people is a lot of us have been very privy to your journey. You've been very vocal about some of the things that happened in between you leaving TV news and you ending up where you are now. But the question is, I know I was one who said, maybe you should talk more about this journey. And I don't think you were ready at the time. So
Yeah.
why now?
I think it's indicative of just, I've been very open with what it's taken for me to get to this place that I'm at now. And, probably all too well, just, how much I had to recover, after I left news, I think it's indicative of just the therapy that I've done over the past few years that I've been out of the industry, because it may sound stupid, but, I feel like I'm like a lot of other journalists that, we grow up, this is our passion. This is something we're passionate about. We're good at it. We love what we do. We love to see the impact of our work. And so much of me leaving the industry, especially the way that I did, it took work for me to get over it. And I discussed that in the book. And, there was a lot that I had to unpack even from my journalism career too, like the experiences that I had covering the stories that I did and how they still impact me to this day. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I dedicated a good portion of the book to that, because I've been very passionate and vocal about that since I left as well. And specifically about the CBS part, I didn't want to... the CBS chapter in the book, I didn't dive into it as much as, maybe you thought I should, or some other friends thought I might have. But I don't know. I'm not a victim now. You know what I mean? Like, I talk about how I was really inspired by Ann Curry and her departure from NBC, and I kept a video of her. I still have it in my phone from when she came on CBS This Morning, and right after Matt Lauer got fired. And of course, they asked her about her departure from NBC because no one had really been able to do so. And she's like, I just got to a point where I just let it go. And I can finally say that I've let it go. And I'm happy and thankful for that, because, I had some really dark days, and I'm proud of myself that I can finally let it go. So I kind of felt like I didn't want to discuss it too much, because I didn't want to make it seem like I was still a victim, or like I was still hung up on it, And that's not to negate the bullshit that I went through. And so many other people are still going through to this day in the industry. But I didn't want to harp on that too much, because it's just time for me to let it go. And I have, Oh, I should mention, Kelsey, too. We are taking questions, like if you're on Facebook or YouTube. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I think we'll be able to see.
Definitely. I have it up as well, so I'm able to see those questions.
Are you on YouTube? Well. I'm on Facebook.
I have it up on another window, yeah.
Okay, cool.
In another window, yeah. I think what some people, when they take a look at this, will learn about the early days, the backstory about how you as a child would mimic what you saw on television, how deep in your soul it was that you wanted to be a journalist. So I won't say talk about that per se, but I would like you to talk about just honing those skills, knowing that you wanted to do this at 4 years old or younger, and how being able to do it and then leaving the way that you did.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the impact of all of that, because it was a childhood dream.
Yeah. No, and I think that was the biggest part of it. It's just like mourning this dream of mine, mourning the years of sacrifice that I put into this dream. I've been away from home since college, and so I've sacrificed a lot over the course of my career in news. You know, like my father passed away last year. And I really had a lot of regrets around just missing so much time with him because I was away, you know, and so I sacrificed a lot, like we all do, you know, for our careers. But I think that was the toughest part of it because it was a lifelong dream. And like anyone, it's funny, anyone from high school on, you know, if you say my name, they're like, you love the news. Like I was a nerd, like I really was a news nerd. And so that was a big part of it, just mourning that you know, putting that dream to bed and stuff. But I think I also found value, like incredible value in reinventing myself. And again, it was like a conversation with a friend because I was like kind of like talking to him about, you know, just like, you know, struggling with the idea of leaving. And he's like, you know, sometimes it's good to reinvent yourself and just move on. You know what I mean? And that really hadn't settled in with me before. And so that kind of just like really helped me kind of put it to bed. And then the therapy too, I talk about something in the book that my therapist made me do that I thought was kind of stupid, but it helped me get like a really great breakthrough eventually in terms of my recovery from, you know, leaving the industry and accepting this new life of mine. If anything, I will say that, you know, my belief in things, everything happens for a reason in your life. My belief is that in that is even firmer now more than ever after everything that I've been through. And, you know, and not that I have this perfect life now or anything like that. I'm pretty sure life is going to continue lifing for me, you know, but I'm proud of the fact that I was able to like really lean into this moment in my life. And I think, you know, I found some success in it and fulfillment so far. And I talk about in the book, like the sense of agency that I have over my life that honestly I struggled with, especially when I was at the network. I felt owned, you know, like every time you came to visit or friends, like I always had to leave. And, you know, I didn't complain about it. It's the job, it's what you're supposed to do. But I felt owned. I didn't have a life of my own, you know? And so it's the little things now that I really value and appreciate in this new life of mine.
What I will tell everyone that's paying attention, it is a very, very, very easy read.
Mhm.
And what I like about it, that it's in your voice. And if anyone has spent an ample amount of time with you, exactly how you're speaking is exactly how this was written.
For better or worse, when it comes to that.
No, I think because you want it to be relatable to
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
can you talk about the decision to say, for instance, there's a chapter called Hell Yes, or when you talk about getting the job at Amazon and I'm running to the bank cashing that Bezos check. Like, can you talk about the decision making behind wanting to have it in as clear a voice as Dawn as possible?
Well, I think it's indicative of just the space I'm in too, professionally and personally. Like I feel in my skin and like I show up every day in my authentic self. And so I just wanted that to be an extension of that, you know, in the book. And like anyone who knows me knows that I love Housewives, and, you know, and I do remember that day because we were at home. Kelsey and I lived together in New York. And remember that day when Newspath called me, I was like, what? And I really was like, hell yeah. You know, I do remember that, you know, and then I came to your room and was like, oh, I just got this call. Like, you know, so I just wanted that just to have a little bit of fun in it because, you know, I'm a fun guy, I think.
You know what? Since we're there and we talk about getting the call at Newspath, but before we go there, there's something that you mentioned in the chapter called The Big Leap of Faith. And you kind of touched on this briefly a moment. And you say sometimes it's fun jumping out of a plane and finding your parachute on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in your short years of life have you had to do that?
I would say that was the first time. I mean, I think, you know, I think when you leave college and you embark on your career, obviously that's a leap of faith. And, you know, I think for us too, when you go to new stations and new jobs, that's a leap of faith in a way as well, because, you know, you don't know what you're walking into, what devils you're going to meet there, you know. But I'd say on that level, definitely Denver and taking that move to New York with you was like the biggest leap of faith. And it was like, you know, honestly, like, you know, because you were there, but like it really was like something, there was this force just telling me to do it, you know, um and you know, and then the fact that you were coming too was like definitely helped. And you know, we won't share all our stories from New York, but you know, it was a tough time to, you know, New York has been tough for both of us, and but it's had very good, you know, it's been very high highs and very low lows for both of us there, you know, and you know, I think the fact that you were in on it too, like that definitely helped me take that leap of faith. I'm not sure, honestly, that I would have done it, as you said, no, to be honest, you know. Um, but yeah, and but that did teach me that there is value in not only listening to your thoughts and like yourself and what the universe is putting before you, but it also involves just like knowing your worth and believing in yourself. Like I was very sure of the journalist I was when I left Denver because of all the experiences I had there. And I knew I had what it took to be a reporter, a successful reporter in New York City. And I was firm in that. And I knew my tape was kick ass. And, you know, it's not ego at all, but I just knew. And like the universe was presenting things in a way that just made me kind of sure of myself and like to lean into that. And then, you know, and then my best friend is coming with me. You know, this is a new city. I think we just turned 30. We're not going to tell our ages now, but you know, like that just, you know, it made me
just 30. I was 29.
Here we go. It's a constant fight that we have. Like he's so much younger. But I think too, I think that's helpful for people who are in the business now who might be having thoughts of leaving. I had plenty of thoughts over those years before CBS, you know, obviously things pop in your head, but I think the industry, and I try to explain this to, you know, my partner, Greg, like just, and other people who don't know like the industry, like it's a special industry that special people are in it. And it's like, I don't know, it's hard to shake. It's not like a job that you just, I'm quitting today. And like, you know, it's like, it's a special industry and it's like, it's hard to leave it. And I think the toxicity of it like really cuts into your self-worth and how you see yourself. And I think every time I remember when those thoughts did come to mind, even when I was unemployed and, you know, that Alaska Airlines job came my way, I doubted myself and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. You know what I mean? And I say that to say that I hope that people who, after reading this book and just hearing my story, feel empowered to kind of listen to that voice, you know, or just recognize what the universe is putting around you and lean into it. Don't be afraid to do so, because I think I took a bet on myself and I think it paid off. You know what I mean? And I talk about this in the book too. I'm a big believer in energy, and like when you say you're going to do something, you have to put some kind of energy into it. And so I suggest in the book, like if you have a thought about like leaving, dedicate yourself like once every Saturday. You're going to put some time into just like doing some research, looking at jobs, reaching out to someone in an industry that you are interested in. You know, just put some kind of energy into it, because just like how I talked about how I got this book out, when I finally put that energy out, look what came my way. My dear coworker, who was very knowledgeable in this and quite frankly probably is helping me be more successful with this book. You know what I mean? So I think that's an example of just, you know, dedicating some energy towards thoughts and, you know, these feelings that we have.
One of the things I want to touch on a little bit more in your spiel there, when you talk in the chapter about "Oh Hell Yes," hell yes, I would love to read this little portion that you wrote, and you say, "I think people in TV news often glamorize network news life way too much.
Mm.
Yes, it's thrilling, and it feels great to reach a national and international audience, but people don't discuss the sacrifices that come with being at that level and how grueling it can be."
Mhm.
I would like to add to that because I know in our friend circle of TV newsers, we often talk about how the job can be your identity,
Uh-huh.
how it will shape how you move throughout the world. For example, when we both were living here, I was anchoring at a little known network here, and you were doing what you were doing at CBS. How people would often see me out
I can't believe you're bringing this up.
and I recognize you. So, talk a little bit about how glamorous it can be perceived on the outside and what that does to the point of why it can be so hard for some people to leave.
Yeah, no, and I was always like, bitch, I'm on CBS too. Okay. No, no, it does become our identity. And, for me, like, it wasn't hard for me to leave that behind because honestly, like, that was always uncomfortable to me, the attention that you would get, like, not you, but like us as TV people. Jackson, Mississippi, for instance, like we'd be out, like, people recognizing you and people, it's just, I've never been one of those people that liked attention like that, and I think too, until I got my anxiety treated a few years ago, I was an introvert, and like around in the public, so I was always really uncomfortable with that. But if anything, I always say that my life kind of began when in 2018 when I left. It feels good to be just an anonymous regular old person, and like sometimes people at work, they're like, I like a few months ago, I had a meeting with someone at work and he's like, your name was familiar. And then I looked you up, like I used to watch it, so you still, remnants of it do still come up. But, I think that was the least hardest part for me, but I do realize that it does become part of our identities, and my advice is just to like see the value in reinventing yourself and just lean into that, and obviously, like, sometimes you get perks being on TV and stuff like that, but, well, I didn't really care about that. But, yeah, hope that answered that.
No, absolutely. And as you mentioned at the top of this, you didn't want to go too deep into the CBS portion of it, and we won't do that as well either here because I feel like there's so much we can talk about. We all know what happened with you and CBS. You've been very vocal and public about that over time, so we won't spend too much time on that. But I would say
that was scary to do. Like it was, I don't know. That was like another moment. Sorry to cut you off, but like that was another moment when I think, I was really proud of myself afterwards, but I don't think I knew what I was doing by posting that my post that day, but I think with my therapy, I just got into a place where I just felt comfortable finally sharing it, because I did carry around a lot of shame, I will say, after, because, I felt like I was unceremoniously, let go from the network. And, at a high profile position like that, people do wonder, like, what did he do? You know what I mean? And I think, so for me, it was liberating to finally share that piece of my, that sharing my story and what happened to me and telling that, so.
And I employ people to, if you want to know a little bit more about that, to please pick this up because he talks a little bit more about that. Did you at the time of writing this, because in reading, there were 4 things that stood out to me. This story is about happiness, self-discovery, redemption, new chapters. Was that the 4 main pillars or themes that you were trying to hit? Because as I was even walking from the gym today, I'm like, oh, because I read it again.
Oh, thanks.
And I was like, he finds himself, he finds his happiness. He is self-discovering himself all over again. It's redemption for those people who said, you know what, deuces, get out.
Yeah.
It's new chapters, being able to reinvent yourself, as you say. So did you, in leaning into this, were those things that you wanted people to take away?
Now that you say that, no, like I mean, because I'm not like an author like that, you know what I mean? I think for that part of the book, I just wanted to tell my story. And the purpose of me telling that was so after you read my story, you could see how I applied some of those examples, those experiences that I mentioned, to how I leveraged those to, help me be successful in this post-news life. But I love to hear that you left with those themes because, even when this went live, that imposter syndrome kicks in and you're like, is this going to be people are paying for this? Is this going to be a waste? Like every time someone's texted me about it, I'm like, is it useful? Do you find it, and again, I think, that's that insecurity and imposter syndrome in me. So I love to hear that, you found it empowering. And honestly, that's why I did this because, I've been there. I know how hard it is. And quite frankly, I'm really proud and excited that we are in this moment of introspection that a lot of journalists are having and, that they are leaning into this. I just spoke to a journalist who I respected through college and after college who just left his station, someone I loved. I learned from him. And he's like, my mental health, I had to put it first. And I love that we're normalizing this. And this is definitely a moment, and I just wanted to empower people with this book and just let them know, just share my story. And I love that to hear that it's empowering to you. And I hope it's empowering to everyone. There was a thought I had too. Yeah, but no, I do love the fact that, we're in this moment where there is a recognition of the toll it takes on journalists covering. I cannot say enough just the toll that those experiences I had in news that they've taken on me. I have a huge anxiety around gun violence right now that I've never had before in my life. I was, diagnosed with anxiety, and it started to manifest itself physically, when I was at Alaska. I'll never forget the day, like we were in a meeting. I was part of the leadership team and I was in a meeting and I kind of had to push back against my boss on something that I was trying to influence him to do. And I was like, mid-breath, I was like, my body, it felt like I was about to, I was having a panic attack basically. And, and so that really made me like wake up and pay attention to anxiety and stuff like that. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I think one of the things that I was really conflicted with in terms of I was really conflicted with, as I wrote this book, I'm not trying to encourage people to leave the industry. Like, I still think it's such an incredibly important profession. I admire my journalist friends so much. I live vicariously through you all. I think that's where I was like, I didn't want to come off like I was trying to convince people to leave. I just wanted to make that really clear, because this is especially for my journalism, brothers and sisters out there who are of color or Black, this is such an incredibly important time for our voices to be heard in the industry. And so I really grappled with that, in terms of I didn't want it to come off like I was trying to get out of the business. I mean, I do that to you all the time, but we're friends. So, but I didn't want to have that kind of tone in the book, and I hope I don't, because sadly, I do see, I think the industry is changing and not for the better, sadly, but I just hope I struck the right tone in that, with that. And I just wanted to really make that clear.
Oh, definitely. And that's a great place to bring in the chapter called My Gap Year, because I think it illustrates how difficult it was to leave the business for you. Mm-hmm. And not that you picked up the phone, how people over time, they've spent 2-3 decades in the industry, and then they say, you know what, I think it's my time.
Yeah.
You were forced.
Yeah.
Goodbye and good night.
Yeah.
So you had to live through that. There's a quote that I want to get to after you talk about the decision to leave or not pursue any opportunities that were coming your way, because there were some opportunities, but they probably weren't the right opportunity.
No.
So talk a little bit about, we end at CBS and then you are in this phase that you call your gap year. What do you do?
And that was scary to really, I remember my father one time and my dad, loved him. He was, he always kept it real with me. And I remember a conversation that I had with him. I'm like, I think I was several months into my unemployment. Probably was asking him for some money, to be honest. But I remember telling him during that conversation that, someone was interested in me and I told him no, and he's like, why? And I'm like, it just, you know, I know my worth, and it's just not the amount of money that I see myself making after, you know, the network. Like, and not that I was making all that kind of money at the network, keep it real. But you know, it honestly was the most money I'd ever made in my career. You know what I mean? And so I I knew in that moment I just had to stay firm, you know, and also for my sanity, I also couldn't just get back to going covering house fires and chasing police blotter. You know, a lot of things do not make sense to you after you leave the network. Let me keep it real. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, so that year, just, you know, that gap year, I just had a lot of introspection and just, I really had to come to terms with that and like, you know, turning down those opportunities. I remember that station that was interested in me for the main anchor role. And I was just like, I was in London at the time. And I was like, and I remember them asking me, can you come to New York? Like, and we'll fly you from there. And I'm like, no, like, you know what I mean? I'm living in London now, you know? That was scary to do, you know, it was kind of fun, you know, but it was scary. But I think I got obviously kind of desperate toward, you know, as we got closer, once my unemployment started running out and then my savings ran out, you know, I did get kind of desperate, you know, but I still knew I had to stay, you know, firm in my worth and not just accept anything. And I think, and two, like I think, and I hope this came across in that chapter about Alaska. I was a kid at a candy store working at Alaska Airlines. Like I cannot say enough great things about that place and where I worked. You know, the division I worked in. Like I was so happy. It was a nurturing environment. Like it was so healthy. And even still, I was still struggling to let go of this part of me that was still like kind of yearning for news still. You know what I mean? And I think that's just a natural transition thing. You know what I mean? That like everyone is going to go through it if you leave. You know what I mean? But again, I think I had to really stay present in myself and like just listen to signals within me, if you will, that were telling me that this was the right thing to do and to trust that, you know. And I, again, like I think I have an incredible power of like introspection, I think, and I'm proud of that, you know. And I just and I think when I was at Alaska, it's just like the more with each passing week, I'm like, this is where I really need to lean into this. And you know, I can't say enough about, you know, like Kristen Ayers, one of my other best friends, you know, she really helped me get that job. And because we had basically her best friend, Jenny, uh, uh, she was my boss at Alaska. And, you know, I just can't, I credit Kristen and Jenny so much with just helping me, you know, reinvent myself these past few years. And then Kristen was able to do the same. She's at Amazon now too. But, you know, I also had some really great people in my corner who helped me through that transition.
You jumping ahead here, like you know where I'm going with this. So take off your journalist hat for 3 seconds and let me do my job, okay?
Sorry. I'm not used to this, you know.
I'm very aware, so, but you might as well get used to it because more people are coming. Trust me. I want to stick with the gap year before we jump over to Alaska Airlines. And yes, definitely want to shout out Kristen and Jenny, amazing people and great people to have as friends. So we don't want to like pass them by at all. But I want you to talk about how you talk about standing in your worth, and you write in the book, standing firm in my worth at that moment. And that was the moment where you were in London, the moment where CBS was gone. Probably the moment when you were with 2 other friends, Carla and Candace, in LA. So shout out to them as well. But you say standing firm in my worth at that moment and during those down opportunities was turning down those opportunities was difficult. It's not a natural feeling, especially for a Black person. Mm-hmm. We talk often about how what we can do or what others can do, we cannot do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So turning down those opportunities, living in London, blowing through your savings, what you had, your unemployment, um, then being back in LA, back here in the States for a short time. And um, I don't recall you writing this in the book, or if people even know about the restaurant job.
Yes. I had that in there first, but then I got kind of like self-conscious, and I was like, I'm talking about
Yeah.
myself too much. But yeah, no, when I was in LA, thankfully, once I moved out, so when I went to London, I still had my apartment in Dallas, and one of our mutual friends was subletting it for me. And so when the Alaska opportunity came up, I was in the States in Dallas, moving out of that apartment. And so I couldn't afford to keep coming back from London, so I called up Candace and Carla, and I was like, can I stay with you for a few weeks just to see how this Alaska thing played out? I think that turned into 2 months, maybe, maybe 3 months, the whole summer. I stayed with them for about a month, to be clear, and then I started renting but I did work at a restaurant, and it was humbling, and it was actually pretty fun, but it was hard. I mean, just physically, but it taught me, to really just be grateful for what I have. And, just I still have some friends who I'm in contact with, who I worked with at that restaurant. But yeah, that was tough because I was desperate and I needed to make some money, and it was that or stripping, and I ain't got no stripper's body, but but yeah, no, and I'm so grateful for Carla and Candace, for letting me do that. I think I wish I should have put more just about how my friends really showed up for me that year. All of you, I'm just so grateful, just with words of encouragement, support, money, letting me stay with you. My friends really showed up for me in that gap year, and my family too. And I'm forever indebted to you guys, and just grateful for you guys. I originally had that as my dedication, but with my dad and then my stepfather who raised me, I just wanted to kind of honor them as well with the dedication. But yeah.
You speak a lot about mental health and taking agency over how you were feeling, and really tapping into the anxiety, the mental health, and how all of it was coming together for you. So in Free Flights and Holidays, and that's the portion about Alaska Airlines, you say, I remember having a mental breakthrough with a dear friend, reminding me that there's power in reinventing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to do that a couple of times between CBS and Alaska.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what it was like to discover, one, who you are in that moment, and then who you needed to be in order to get to the next chapter.
Yeah, I think, my mother is like an incredibly strong woman and resilient woman. And I think I definitely get my strength from her, and that power of just perseverance. And so I think I just channeled a lot of that during that time. But I think the more I leaned into not only the Alaska job, but now the Amazon job, the more I've discovered, I'm smart. Like, I don't know why that's such an awakening for me. But I'm smart. Like, wow, I'm really good at this. Like, these skills are really in demand. I think the more I leaned into it, the more I learned about myself. And, I never would have dreamt that I'd be where I am now, and I feel like I'm owning it and being successful, thankfully. But I think the more I just leaned into it and just trusted that this was meant to be, the more I learned about myself, and the more confidence I grew as well. And there's something that you always say too that always sticks with me too. You have to trust the timing of your life. And, I think throughout this whole process, I've definitely done that, and that really helped. And just that faith and what's meant to be is meant to be. And that's something that I always told myself, even when I was in news, as you see other people climbing through the ranks and I always made a point to just focus on my lane, and I celebrate my brothers and sisters who advance, I'm very happy for that. And I just never was one to be like, oh, look at that, look what they're doing, I just always have had this ability to just trust the timing of my life, and I'm thankful for that. And so I think that really helped me, through that process of what as well in terms of like reinventing myself.
Can we talk a little bit about the skills that you brought over from um, journalism to one at Alaska, and then two now at Amazon, and three even like venturing out and having your own business?
Yeah.
Um, because a lot of those skills can transfer over.
No, exactly. Yeah. And like, I think that's why I had that first, I think it's the first chapter where I'm just like, acknowledge your superpowers. Journalists, I don't care what your job is. You could be on the assignment desk, a producer, a photojournalist, a truck operator. Like, we are multi-skilled people who, in all those roles, you have to know what's going on. You have to build trust and relationships with other people outside of your station, outside of your organization. Those are people management skills. Reporters, you're managers in the field every day, managing a product that's being delivered under an incredibly tight deadline. Now my deadlines now at work are weeks, if not months away, and like that was kind of a hard thing to adjust to as well. But like, and someone who read the book, who I love, Lena, who's a producer, executive producer now, but she was one of my producers in college when I was an intern at WBAL. She told me, and I was really proud that she said this after she read the book. She's like, I'm rethinking some things. Oh, I hope that was, hope I didn't put your tea out there, girl. But, but no, I was really proud of the fact that she was like, I want to encourage people to think bigger, like, because I think, and this is not to say that some communications job or PR job, like that's nothing, like those are great jobs as well. But I feel like when we are thinking of reinventing ourselves, that we limit ourselves to just thinking that those are the roles that we can do. And like, that's not for everybody, you know what I mean? And, I think I've learned to really lean into my superpowers. That's a big thing that we have at Amazon. Like, we talk about our superpowers every year. And one of the things I like is that our work is constantly adapted to lean into our superpowers. And so I would encourage people to just lean into video. Like, video is becoming such a huge form of communication, a form for advertising. I'm in advertising now, and I've learned so much about it, and I love it. Like, there's a lot of parallels between it and storytelling that I just really find fascinating and love. Tech jobs, program management. Program management is like producing. You're working with stakeholders on producing a deliverable, like, and like you could take a class after you leave the industry to get certified in it. Product management, these are things that if you just took a step back to, like, I think in a way we kind of minimize what we do every day because it's a daily thing that we have to do. It's a daily task that we deliver on. And it's like, I think we kind of minimize what goes into the sausage making process, And so, so like, I wanted to empower people to think bigger in terms of just really trying to think about what else they could do. And also like lean into your passion. Like, I felt so thankful to land that job in Alaska. Like, I loved aviation. I love aviation. I already knew a lot about the industry, learned a lot more when I was there. And it really kept me engaged through those days, because it is a much different pace of work. Like, I remember like finishing stuff that day, like on the day it was assigned to me, and I'm like bored the rest of the day, and like you kind of learn, how to deal with that. But it really kept me engaged during that transition period. So I think that's definitely what I wanted to get across in that chapter.
I would like to say again that the idea here is not to try and persuade people to leave.
No, exactly.
Jobs.
Yeah.
We're not Mother B in the song when she said,
yeah,
the lyric.
Yes.
But what we are saying is, and I keep going back to happiness and self-discovery, what we are saying is take agency, take stock of how you feel in your life, and then move accordingly.
Yeah, and trust that voice. I think in news, it's such a subjective industry where you're constantly beaten down. Like, I think that was something I had to get used to in both of my jobs, is just accepting praise and like, when people would give me a compliment on something, I would always be, no, even in my personal life. And I try to like hold myself accountable to just saying thank you, yes, because like in news, you don't get enough of that, and it's just like an industry that constantly beats you down like day in and day out. And on top of that, the experiences that you're going through are traumatic, and you never really get a chance to like unpack them. And that really clouds your views of yourself and like what you're capable of doing and what your superpowers are. And so I really hope people can push through that now and just see themselves a little differently, as they do, if they are rethinking, about thinking about leaving and taking reinventing themselves.
Mhm. I would like to know if you have any questions on the Facebook side. We didn't get any
Okay.
on the YouTube side yet. But meanwhile, while we do that, can you talk about how Amazon has changed your life?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just I think when I got my promotion recently, I cried, because I think for me it was just like it's a place that taught me just it's like been akin to me going back to get my MBA. Like, I'm just learning these skills and just learning from incredibly intelligent people, just things that I never thought that I would think would be, interesting, and like that I would be in this space. It's also taught me the power of just like experimenting and innovating. And I keep one of my mentors at work, they pair you with someone who's like of a higher level, and he told me just through his work, I have on my board here, it's like, when is the last time you had a big failure? It's like a place that it's okay to fail. And I think that was like a huge mental model shift for me coming into this space, because in news you cannot fail. You can't get your facts wrong. You better make your slot. You try to be flawless in your live shots. And so for me, like, failing was never an option, and so I had to be perfect. You know what I mean? And so I think just leaning into that, and it's just been a huge mental model shift. And I'm just incredibly grateful for this experience. Like, I remember, leaving Alaska, and I was like, am I making a mistake? You know what I mean? But I knew I needed to learn more. And like, Alaska was an incredible job. I loved it. It was fulfilling, but I knew I could get comfortable, and I just knew I had to learn more and like kind of take this leap of faith. And my first year at Amazon, like, I was scared. Like, I just really wanted to make a year, and now I'm almost 3 years in, who knows what's happened next, but like, I'm really proud of the growth I've experienced here and all of the things I've learned here as well. And again, this is not something I ever thought was possible, and these are, I think, by taking the risk and like, getting out of the industry and going to Alaska, like, it helped me to tap into the side of me that I didn't know existed. And that happened because I leaned into these opportunities and leaned into that space, So, yeah.
We spoke a little earlier today about how you were getting approached by people to who were in the business. Some people who have been in the business 1 to 2 years, some people who've been in the business a little longer, a decade even. Are you finding that most of their questions are the same?
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And that's why last year I started jotting down these. I think if I want people to pay attention to one chapter, it is definitely the mental health, but also the resume. Like, the resume is so important. And I would really challenge you, do not pay someone else to do it. Do it yourself, because you can only tell you. And I say in the book, you've spent so much time telling other people's stories, tell your own finally. And I think that Jenny really helped me with my first resume. And like, I remember she told me, brag, 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 and brag some more. It may feel uncomfortable, but if there's anything you learn from me, like, pay attention to your resume. And I have a lot of tips in there about what you need to include in them. But the resume is so different outside of the industry. And I think that's the biggest mistake that people make when they're trying to leave the industry, is that they don't pay enough attention to their resume. And I'm not talking about putting a cute little photo of yourself and to make it pretty and all that. data. You need data. Like, tell me the value of your work, like the depth of it, and I think that data, if you read it, like it explains it, but like you need to show the depth of your work and the breadth of it. And so, yeah, so that would be my biggest piece of advice for folks, in the book.
And I'll say again, it is a very small and simple and thoughtful and plan of action read, and it's called Signing Off, a reflective guide on transitioning from TV news by former CBS News and Emmy-winning journalist Don Champion. I don't think that we have any questions coming in.
No, and thank you for all the support from everyone. It's been overwhelming. Like, I kind of like, me, like when I do things like this, I put things out and I like kind of just go in a box. Like, and so I apologize if I haven't responded to your messages and stuff like that. And it's like my own anxiety thing, but thank you so much for the support. And, for anyone who gets the book and reads it, like, please feel free to reach out to me. I can help you all I can. Next week, I do want to mention, I've assembled an incredible panel of 4 former newsies who I've met, who work outside of the industry now. And so I'm going to go and put myself in Kelsey's spot, I'm much more comfortable in, and I'm going to interview them about their experiences. So that's going to be next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time and 8:30 Eastern time. So I just really hope that's in this conversation was an extension of me trying to really empower folks with this book. And so, but thank you for all the support. It really means a lot. Not only this, but also after, I spoke out about CBS in 2021. I feel so grateful just for all the support. And thank you, Kelsey, too, for helping me with this. And he's not a paid spokesperson either. So, and Kelsey always keeps it real. If there's anything that he does, he's going to tell you the truth. So if he said the book is good, it really is good. So
I've read it. Oh, and look at Carter. Yeah. I've read it a couple of times, at least leading up to this. And one more time, put it up for us. We'll plug it one more time. Signing off.
Please, the director, put up the book.
Yeah, signing off. A reflective guide on transitioning from TV news. Get it at Amazon. You can get it from Don Champion's pages and all sorts of things. There are links to where you can find this. You can get it in PDF form to your Kindle, or you can get a printed copy like I have, and I know some other people have as well.
Yes.
Where you can have a tangible copy, something like you can mark up, because there's some tips in here, and it's very good to have. So
I should mention, like on my site, like the PDF version, I put my resume from 2018 in there for reference. So not many people have bought that version, so I think I'm just going to put up my resume on my site, but that'll come later. So, but yeah, please check it out.
You also said that someone was going to get a free consulting session with you. Have you figured out who that person is? Are we breaking news here tonight, or is it going to?
I didn't follow through with that marketing idea. So again, the day job is too busy. But yeah, no, I mean, if you reach out to me, I'm always happy to help people. Obviously my time is limited, but I will say I poured my best advice and really everything that I tell people into this book. And so, but if you still have questions, obviously I'm here to help. And I'm really proud of the people who I've helped in the past few years. And I'm just, I guess my closing thought is just, again, listen to that voice in you. You're hearing it for a reason. Lean into it. You're worthy. You've got the skills. You're a badass. So yeah. Thank you, Kelsey.
Yo, King, you're a badass.
Yes.
All right, Don.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Catch you on the other side of this.